How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
New Vitamin Water Zero Sugar Pineapple Passion Fruit is packed with vitamins. Just like the amount of peas we packed in that sentence. It's packed like your tote bag. The one you stole from your ex. Or your overpriced half a studio apartment. Or extra rushed rush hour traffic. Packed like your calendar. Triple booked at 5, of course. Grab a Vitamin Water. Did we mention it's packed with vitamins?
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey guys, how you doing? It's Mick Tully for World Martial Arts Television. Before we even get started, I always have to do this. Apologies, but I've bought into this. I saw the guy from Modern Wisdom do it. Everyone else does it. If you look right down there, you'll see a bell, and if you press that connects you to me somehow. I have no idea. And then if you press again and subscribe, that means that we will send you stuff, which is usually pretty cool, straight to you. So if you can just do that for me, it only takes a second. There you are. Thank you very much. Now, today, it's quite a bit of a departure for us in World Martial Arts Television, because usually we just speak to predominantly guys in martial arts who've been in there for years, and as much as it's great chatting to them about, their journey, yada, 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 in martial arts, you don't really get a fresh perspective or a fresh set of eyes on martial arts. But more importantly, for us today, it's looking at a facet or a side of martial arts which is taboo for quite a few people, especially if you're if you're doing this for your livelihood and you still struggle with making money. I can't work that one out. It's the only business in the world where people seem to have some sort of moral dilemma about making money. So we've gone straight to the source, and we've managed to get. I've checked him out online. I'm really impressed at his story, first of all, but I'm really impressed with what this guy's doing, and it's the one and only as Dan the Man, and I hope I get this correct. Uyemura. Am I right? Am I nearly there?
Pretty close. I just tell everyone it's like W-A-Y. Uyemura. Dan
Uyemura. But Dan, your business is called Push Press, as you can see from your t-shirt, right? But first of all, can you explain what Push Press is? And then what we're going to do is we're going to lead into your take on martial arts, business, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah. So, I guess it's a quick background on me. I was a computer programmer by trade as a youngster, I guess, and then I decided to open a gym. And when I opened a gym, I wasn't happy with the software that was out there because I built software. So I built a software to run my gym. Other gym owners, as you know, in the gym ownership space, we all kind of start to learn to know each other and make friends with each other and work with each other. So I didn't know this would happen at the time. I built it for myself. I made a bunch of gym owner friends, and then they started wanting to use it, and it kind of just snowballed from there. So it's a gym operating system, if you will. And our job is to help make everyone's lives operationally easier by trying to help you create process and systems and automations around your business.
Well, you see, this is the thing, right? So in my research, checking you out, I saw that you had initially done your app and you'd done your program for Push Press, which looked to me like it could be slotted into literally anything where if you're in the business of getting people moving, whether or not it's CrossFit, high rocks, any sort of martial arts, it seems to slot in perfectly because it doesn't really differentiate or care about what they're doing. It's just, are they getting in through the door, sweating and coming out? That's my limited understanding of what your system is. But then I've been looking at you more recently, and especially some of the stuff that you're putting on Instagram, which is literally you're dishing out the cautionary tale, which is if you're not getting into AI now, you're going to be 3 steps behind in 6 months. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm old enough to have gone through a couple technology revolutions, starting with the internet, I guess, being one, the move to the cloud, another one, mobile was probably another one, and social. So I feel like in my childhood, there were no technologically innovations, maybe the personal computer when I was like 10. But beyond after that, there weren't many technological revolutions. And then we've had 4 in the last decade and a half. And because I've been an entrepreneur through that whole series of 4 of them, not only do I have a bunch of regret of all of the opportunity I missed on, because every single one of today's best businesses was built when I was in my prime and could have built it, but I have the hindsight of and the wisdom of knowing. I call it Dan GPT. Like we all have we call it gut, but like I've seen enough of these now where I'm like, okay, when crypto came, I felt that was not a revolutionary moment, and we stayed away from that. But with AI, it's exactly like when the internet popped, when mobile popped, when social popped. There's going to be a complete shift in how business is done. And right now, the infrastructure for it all is all being built, so you can still get in on the ground floor to some degree. And that's why there's this mad rush among Silicon Valley. They're dumping a ton of money into AI companies because they know the next Amazon, the next Google might be built now. But in the small business world, this is just as simple as learning how to use the tools, taking the time to learn how to use the tools. I even tell my kids, like the best thing you can do for your like career right now is just learn how to use AI really well because it will impact you in a way you won't understand 5 or 10 years from now.
It's so funny you said that because one of the things that I really liked about looking at your push press and your physical gyms, so the business where people walk in through the door. So for want of a better way of explaining it, you're two side from the outside looking in, I see 2 businesses. I see a physical gym where people are coming in, paying money, working out. And then I see your program, your mentoring program, your online business, which is connected, but at the same time, it's got its own autonomy, right? But the 2 things that I noticed with both of them was how much you built on community and how much of, like, people don't just go to a gym anymore. And it's so funny because even as we're talking about this, it's going around in my head. We're very tribal by nature. And I really do believe that the next step in training is just building that because you don't have to be with someone now to be in their tribe. Does that make sense? So is that 100%. Something that you've looked at?
Yeah, 100%. The way I like to look at technology, and social is a good example of this, and it sounds like you found this yourself directly. We as humans, it all goes back to like we have very simple premises that we as human beings follow. And one of them is we want to be seen, heard, recognized by other humans and part of a tribe.
Yes.
Every single one of us want that. We want to be loved and recognized and cherished. We want to have some kind of status or acceptance within a tribe. And in today's world, and ironically enough, with social media and AI, all of that's going to feel farther and farther away. And there's only a couple places this can be created at, and one of them is a church and one of them is a gym.
Yeah.
And so I used to have a theory that a gym is the 3rd place. You go home, you go to work, and you have your gym or your church or both. And that 3rd place is a nice social structure where it's not your family, it's not your coworkers. You can be honest with people. You can create friendships that are outside of some predefined context. And that's why gyms are important. Today, with work from home, gyms are the 2nd place. And quite frankly, most people's only place to get away from like their first place. And so ironically, through the context of social and AI and a lot of the technology we're seeing, the gym is becoming more and more important of a place for people to go and become socially connected that I think gym owners have to latch onto. And to slightly correct something you said, I've actually sold both my gyms. I'm now 100% CEO push press.
Right.
But I've told everyone I've talked to, I'll tell you right now, I have an itch to open another gym right now, but I would open a social club that does fitness.
Right.
And the whole thing would be geared around community, connection, a second place to work, a place to grab coffee and talk about ideas, share, like play games, and we work out too. And it'll be the healthiest social club in the world. That would be what I would do.
It's so funny you're saying this because one of the things that I've actually, just as you're saying this, is making me really think. So there's 2 things. So I've got this sign that a student of mine got me for the gym. And it literally is the opening lines to Cheers, the
Yep.
TV series.
Everyone knows your name.
You want to go where people know people are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name, right? And I used to say that to people. And then recently, because I felt that, I teach predominantly still Kali Jeet Kune Do. So that is normally, I have ordinary guys coming in, and all they want to do is, you know yourself, there's guys who really want to train. And you'll see them in 6 months in High Rocks, and then in 12 months, you'll see them at the chiropractors. Because, the easiest way to get injured is to do CrossFit, faster, stronger. You're just going to get injured, right? But I've actually, at the moment, tried to downplay the social club aspect, because I actually used that term last week. I said, guys, I'm looking around the class and it looks more like a social club than a gym. And with me, I was getting a little bit, getting peed off a little bit over it, only because I was thinking, you guys aren't putting enough effort in. But now you're making me think about this, because I've got to give a shout out to a friend of mine. I'll hook you up when we're on Instagram with him. You'll love this guy, Kurt Cornwell. He's got a place called Boombox Detroit. And literally what you've just said is the gym he has. Every other Friday, he's got a DJ comes in. When you came in with the cans on your ear, I thought I was going to Ibiza and getting you to spin a few tunes for me, brother. But it was like, he's got it where these guys are working out, and it literally is. It's the whole, there's a Jenga, there's a giant Connect 4 in the corner, and take some of the weirdness out of the martial arts part. Great. And then obviously the gym, you see, if you just go for the gym, you can get rid of the weird stuff. But it's so interesting that you said about the first, second and third places, because I've never really thought of it in that way. And it's very, very, very perceptive where you say, for some people, it's their only place now, because they literally, for want of a better word, they're existing in the house working. So where else are you going to go? That is crazy. Now, I want to, if you don't mind, it's going to be a little bit of a contentious question. We spoke a little bit on Instagram beforehand in the messenger over this. So it's first way I want to approach it is this. If you've been in the gym and martial arts, the business side of it, right? I can pretty much guess that one of your pet peeves is, the guy who's driving the 15-year-old Camaro, who's the business coach. You know where I'm coming from. So he's the guy, and he's using all the buzzwords, and he's dropping everything on you about how successful he can be. And I don't want to sound like a Dollar Tree Tony Robbins here, but I need to see some social worth from you, dude. If he's rocking up in the Lamborghini Urus, then everything that comes out of his mouth is golden. But in the martial arts business world, where I see it, you just see these business gurus rocking up every 2 minutes, and they come out with every single buzzword. The minute when they start talking about, well, we need to lean into this. And I'm like, dude, I'm 56 years of age. When I hear people say lean in, I normally switch off. It's just, I don't use that vernacular. So can you explain to me, first of all, your experiences when you first started off trying to codify and trying to create a business model for a gym? Because I've noticed online, as you said, small to medium gyms, you can go in. And I liked what you said about not treating them like customers, to build a relationship. And I really like that, because I didn't see anyone else do that. Everywhere else, all I see is, I can get your enrollment up by 50 this month. And you go, but you're losing 60 a month. So explain that to me. So can I get your views, first of all, on that ridiculous business model of the guy who's trying to sell you the dream, but he hasn't succeeded himself?
This could turn into a whole episode of itself. I think the fitness industry, fitness, health, and diet are like this weird industry where if you really look back across the last 50, 100 years, go back to 100 years ago, and there's always someone selling a quick fix, snake oil, ab rocker, home video solution. It's like 3 installment payments. Yeah. This is the one industry where there are not very many companies that have built lifelong value. Meaning there's American Airlines, there's Coca-Cola, there's Ford, There are companies, there's Apple, that have been multi-generational companies that have delivered on customer value across decades.
Yeah.
I will challenge you to find me 10 in the fitness space that have done that are not like NASM or some association, like maybe Equinox is getting there. There's just a handful and a few. And that's because everybody looks for the easy button answer to everything. And the easy button to business is there is no easy button. Like the first moment you take that pill and realize it is when you're actually off to the races of becoming a good business. And small businesses riddled with this because they feel frantically disconnected from everything they have to do. So there's a lot of problems we have to solve. I'm personally trying to solve this. I built a book. I'm writing a book right now called The Love's Flywheel, which is basically how to build a flywheel in your business. And what that does is it basically gives you two things. It gives you a map, because right now you don't really know what you're doing. You're just doing stuff. And two, it shows you how the map connects so that you can put some energy into one that can make the next section of your business easier. And as you solve each section of the business, everything gets easier and everything gets faster. That's what a flywheel does.
Yeah.
Easier analogy is think of a boulder rolling downhill. Like it's hard to push it up the hill, but once you get a little bit of momentum on your side, it gets easier and easier. That's what a flywheel does. That's kind of what the book does. And I think what I see in most small business owners, dude, this is coffee shops, breweries. I talk to every small business owner I go into, and I only support small business for the most part. And every small business tells me that I need more customers. That's the first answer they tell me. But what they haven't thought through is I need better value delivery systems. I need better retention systems. I need better word of mouth delivery systems. I need ways to surface value from my customers to me. There's so many things. Kind of going back to what we were talking about, like your guys are using your place as a social club de facto. If you sat them all down over a coffee and asked them what they value in your gym, it's probably not what you think you're selling them, right? And what is a business? A business is a vessel to deliver value to a customer. It doesn't matter what the customer, like you have to pivot to what the customer values.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh no, 100%. It's so funny when you're saying this, because it's one of the things that, at my peak, I employ 14 guys, right? So for a drywall business, quite big, right? But it was my wife used to always say, your business isn't scalable, Mick, because they buy you. And the problem with me is I'm quite a forceful and strong personality. So then when you send other people in, they go, oh, a bit of a, I like the way that Will just raised his eyebrows there. But it's the truth, I like being me. And also in the drywall business, I really enjoy what I do. You stare at walls all day, you start getting existential. And then when you read far too much philosophy, as you get older, it's like when you're younger, guess what? Nobody really speaks to you. Maybe Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye, right? And then as you get older, Hemingway speaks to you. Marcus Aurelius speaks to you. Charles Bukowski speaks to you. And you go, yeah, man, I get it. And then it was something you said about the value is what's really got me. Because it's like with martial arts, I've got it now where I've got 6 guys that can teach my classes now. And they're all good. They're all very different, but they're all very good. But I had to step away. And I won't lie to you, Dan, it was quite painful for me to walk into a room and not command it. So what I do is I've gone in and then hidden in the corner, let the guys do their thing, not to overshadow them. And when you said about the small business, you said it because every single one of my friends, nowadays it's define a small business. Because guess what? Compared to Amazon, everything's a small business, right? So it's like, is it up to 1,000 employees now? Is it up to 500? Is it up to 100? You can't work it out. And it was like you were saying, it's the core values that really, really I'm really intrigued by. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just pivot a little bit on this, right? So you said something really interesting in one of your podcasts where you said that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is where CrossFit was 10, 15 years ago. And the minute I heard that, it just went off in my head because it was true. Like CrossFit, the first time I ever saw it, I walked in and it was a gym called Top Gun CrossFit. And their unique selling point was nobody used their real names. And I'm not saying it was like eyes wide shut level, Illuminati time. What I'm saying is you walk in there and there was guys and they were called, Jester. There was, believe it or not, there was 3 Cougars. You can guess they were all over 45 and they're all female, right? But it's like they all picked their own name, right? And I looked at this and I was thinking, as cool as this is so unknown to me, to go into a gym and just work out against the clock, against yourself and against other people. And then this almost shameful, declaration of how good you were up on the board each week. And then I used to walk in and I'd say there was one guy down there, I saw him the first couple of times. I was thinking, you need to change his call sign. And what was his call sign? I think it was Viper or something. It was one of the ones from Top Gun. And I looked at it and I was thinking, lazy sack of shit would be a better call sign, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue as quickly, right? And as soon as you said that about the CrossFit, that was 15 years ago, maybe even longer. And now jiu-jitsu is the same thing. It's the Wild West. Everyone's now, we talked about it offline about the whole understanding lineage and not just paying lip service to it, because it was a big honourable thing. But the thing is, especially in the UK, we've had a massive split. Loads of guys have left Gracie Barra. These are guys who were best men at each other's weddings, godfathers to each other's kids. And then, as it says in the big book, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says pursuit of money is the root of all evil, which it seems to be working now. So can you give me your observations on what's going on?
Let me actually, I'm gonna say this just hopefully so it gets recorded and I can write it down later, because pursuit of money is the root of all evil. I will counter that and say pursuit of value is the root of all good.
Now you're talking. Now,
I stand firmly on the premise that money is not inherently bad. It just depends on, is it what you're trying to obtain, or is it a result of what you're trying to obtain? And if that money is an IOU for value. That's all it is. Money is a representation of previous value delivered for a future state, exchange. So that's really interesting. I'm going to make sure I write that down because that's a good one. Okay, I have ADD. Where was your question going? It was going.
My question was, where you saw the way that CrossFit went and then it splintered off into all different directions, and everyone's got their own interpretation of what that was. I never thought that High Rocks would be as big as it is. I see it now and it's like, wow, how is this? And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I said for years, the Brazilians were coming over and they're unbelievably short-sighted and all they see is short money. But that is a bit of a cultural thing for the simple reason that they never had any money. So they didn't realize that they could build generational wealth and a legacy through jiu-jitsu. And I used to say to them, you're making good money right now dealing with this demographic of 16 to 34-year-old men. Wait until housewives get into it. Wait until kids get into it. Wait until, God forbid, you get men in their 50s who want to just try and recapture a little bit of that grit.
That's me. That's me right now.
But you see that. So, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to lead this, because it, as a pioneer in a lot of ways of business in the fitness industry and a relative newcomer in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, taking it serious. As you know, you can't get to be a black belt doing part-time work. It just won't happen. Yeah, that's why so many people get divorced when they do jiu-jitsu, because they're like, I just don't have the time for it. And it's obsessional, and it literally lends itself to every personality trait. You look on the autistic spectrum, and guess what? As you well know, you walk into a room and you go, right, how is there a cop who busted a guy last week for smoking weed, 3 PhD students, 2 construction workers, a doctor, and my pastor? How are they all on the same mat doing the same things? They've got nothing else in common with each other, apart from the next 5 minutes they're trying to kill each other, right? So that's a completely different, we'll park that to one side. But do you see a place where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu can be taken to the next level by using push press and literally, your product?
So
I know that was wrong. Sorry.
A common theme you're going to hear from me is a concept of inputs and outputs, right? And this will all tie back to all this. So like becoming a black belt is an output of thousands of days, not even hours of training and a lot of energy and there's a lot of inputs that go into becoming a black belt. You cannot just say I want to become a black belt, become a black belt. You have to do all of the things. Becoming a successful business or a successful industry, push press can be an input. Using software as an input. Changing your mindset on like, I need to become operationally efficient and I need to create leverage and I need to build process and I need to be systemized and I need to create scale. Those are all inputs that create a mindset of using software and investing in things. Also creating coaches that can create leverage for you. These are inputs. They're investments that create inputs into becoming a great business. Let's talk about CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu. I think this is really interesting because actually bringing up High Rocks, you just unlocked another idea for me. 15 years ago, CrossFit was counterculture. It was Pukey the Clown. Our warm up is your workout. We build machines. We are the machines. We don't use machines. It was all this stuff that the average human being would not want to walk into. I still remember my first day, the first day I went to CrossFit, just like the first day of Jiu-Jitsu, I sat in a parking lot reconsidering my choices. I looked into the gym. It was a old auto body shop with all the doors rolled up. It was 8 p.m. at night. It was dark. Lights were on. Music was blaring. People were sweating. Someone was throwing up. And I'm in my car going like, what do I want to do this? At the time in the counterculture, if you think of industries, the counterculture phase is important because that's what creates the culture, the foundational identity of it, right? So that became the identity of CrossFit. Out of that spawns competition. CrossFit Games, regionals, regional teams, people trying to beat other gyms and the competitive nature fuels the next wave of growth. And then that competition creates a spotlight, which makes the average Joe want to try it. But if you don't adapt past the competitive, shirts off, six packs, sports bras, super fit, people throwing up in the corner and bleeding all over the place and just crazy shit happening, your lawyers and your plumbers and your doctors, the people with the money and the time and who will be the long tail, the last 80% of this industry phase will not do it. And so I actually, again, I'm only 3 months into martial arts and I've heard this autistic claim come from a bunch of different sources. I'll challenge that. I think it's obsessive compulsive, not autistic. I think obsessive compulsive people see grit and grime and grind and hard work and they go like, that's me, I'm going to do it. So there's another phase of this slice of like, you can attract the obsessive compulsives to do it, but my wife will never do it, not unless you make it accessible. And my wife has done CrossFit. So she got to that accessible point of CrossFit. So again, Dan GPT, gut, I see the exact same phase happening here. It was like super hardcore. Like people were doing it in their garages. There weren't even gyms yet. I actually grew up in Torrance, California. So it's like for me.
Yeah, legendary. Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in Torrance. I've known of jiu-jitsu for 30 years now. And in the beginning, it was like very hole in the wall. You need to know a guy who knew a place to go and do it. And slowly like gyms started opening up. The Gracie Academy opened up, became much more commercial. But again, it was still very counterculture. Like we're fighting. We're sweating on each other. We're doing stuff. Now we're in the competitive phase right now. This is what I see. It's like my Instagram, like you said, filled with all this competitive jiu-jitsu, CGI, ADCC, like everything's about like scoring points and doing all this stuff. This is CrossFit Games, CrossFit Regionals era of 2013 to 2018. This huge era of like build a team. Like I hear this in jiu-jitsu, like our team, like this is so CrossFit. But now you're attracting me, someone from the outside who have never done it before, and I'm coming in, and the advice I'm telling people is like, same thing I told CrossFit on day one. Like, if I wasn't psycho, I wouldn't have stayed for this last 2 months because this is crazy. Like the amount of work I have to do into the unknown. I don't even know why I feel like they're going harder than they should. No one explained to me like physicality. Like there's all these things about combat sports that are foreign to the average person. So my thesis right now is it'll be one of two things. Either it will never evolve, or they'll fit, and I don't think that's going to happen because people like me will start to open gyms eventually and it'll be like, you know what? Because my first gym, it was counterculture to the counterculture. I'm like, this is a family-friendly place. We're using family-friendly colors. There's no flaming kettlebells, no pukey shit anywhere, no pukey bins, none of that. Like nobody, I even had a rule at my gym. Nobody throws up here. I don't want to see anyone ever throw up. That's disgusting, right? Like, so somebody will create a very family-friendly, and this is already happening. Like in Santa Monica, Meraki Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if you've seen them. Beautiful facility. My friend Brianna Battles is opening a gym and she's non-affiliating and she's going after like families. She wants to create a whole family dynamic. As this starts to unfold, you're going to get the long tail of people coming in. the early gyms in CrossFit had to adapt or die. Like either we're hardcore, we're attached to the CrossFit competitive methodology, da 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 da. Some of those thrived, most of them had to pivot. And I think that's where we're heading in the next decade for jiu-jitsu.
It's so interesting because you've literally echoed everything that I've said for years. When you walk into the gym and the color scheme's red or black, and you're like, right, okay, I don't really so I'm not Californian and I don't really believe in color therapy, but I do know that if I stay in an environment that's going to be red and black all day, I'm just going to think dark thoughts and be angry. Sorry, I'm not going to. So, Andre Galvao, yeah.
You're already starting to see this. Like a lot of these new, like Alliance, I see it in Meraki itself, like all white, pristine, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. You look at it and it's like, whether or not it's done consciously or not, I don't know, but it's, this might resonate with you. You know that scene in the Matrix where before they get into the loading program, where it's just Keanu Reeves is there with Lawrence Fishburne, and it's completely white and it's a blank canvas. And whether or not they're doing it on purpose, I don't know.
They did,
but yeah. So here's the thing I'll tell you, right? A little piece of advice for you, right? I am a black belt in BJJ. It still scares me to go sparring, knowing that because I'm walking into a room full of killers, and then at 56 years of age, I've had to rethink. So a lot of the stuff that you said is that I've had to do a lot of this where I was beating myself up, going mad at myself because I was struggling to beat up guys 37, 38 years younger than me. And then I was like, yeah, but it's taking more out of me. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I shouldn't even be in the room with these guys anymore. And what I've come to realize now is that at my age and at my grade, I've got a position now where I can turn around and go, look, I'm going to get nothing out of rolling with you. You're just some crazy, amped up Eastern European who wants to kill me. I've got to work tomorrow. And even if you do tap me out, it doesn't make you a black belt. And it's so funny when you were saying about the having to put the time in with the black belt. I remember before I got mine, I got obsessional over it. And I let my Kali and my JKD and my Thai boxing go to one side because I was so focused on getting that black belt. And now I don't even put it on me half the time when I'm rolling. Yeah, I'll turn up and I say, let's go. And they go, I ain't going to put the belt on. But it is that whole thing where it's like it's the Mr. Miyagi scenario. It's like, yeah, but I'm a black belt, so I don't have to wear one.
Yeah.
Me and you both know. But it's so interesting that you've seen that because I would say that where you were saying about you didn't know whether or not it was going to evolve, you are going to get guys who are going to be athletes, but there's a shelf life on athleticism. Whereas, as you were saying about the customer base, right? And this is, I'd like your thoughts on this because in martial arts, especially, it's almost verboten to put a price tag. It is that whole master-student dynamic and shouldn't really charge for it. But the average person in the street doesn't look at it that way, Dan. It's a commodity. Like at gymnastics, they don't have any problem whatsoever in getting them to just pay for their training. So why do you think there is an issue with charging what you're actually worth?
Oh, good question. Let me put a pin on that one and actually finish. I forgot to finish my thought back to High Rocks earlier, so don't let me lose track of that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is CrossFit figured out a lot of stuff in terms of how to make this more accessible to people, but they didn't go the last mile. And the last mile is really High Rocks. And what they've done is they've turned CrossFit into a 10K or a 5K. And if you think of running, it's like you could do like a 100-meter sprint is inaccessible to 99.99% of people, but a 5K is accessible to 99% of everybody. And so what High Rocks actually did is they looked at CrossFit and it's like we're going hard in a gym and they're like, we're going to standardize the workout. We're going to make every movement super friendly. Every human can do it. You can train for it off of a couch. It removes like they did that last mile approach. And that's why High Rocks is now eating CrossFit's lunch, right? It's all about, there's a saying in software that says the first time founder thinks a product and the second time founder thinks a distribution. And that's where businesses win is when you have a client base that's willing to pay for your product. And so what High Rocks did, they said like, you could fight over the 10% of people who are willing to do this in gym and do the unknown and unknowable. And we will fight over we'll take the 90% of people who want to know what they're going to do and want to train for something, an event that we know, circle calendar for the marathon, circle calendar for the 5K, train for it, pay for the training, and then do the event and feel good about themselves. We'll take that 90%. So there's something to think about there in the jiu-jitsu world too.
But that's the thing. When you said that, because I've always seen martial arts as being goal driven. Yeah. And I always say there's two types of people. There's people who do it. So how many people do you know that they'll do a bungee jump? They'll jump out of a plane, but they'll only ever do it once. And from a business point of view, if you've got lots of them doing it, great. But if you want sustainability and you want to keep the client base, then is it a case of moving the goalpost and making that like we've got the fall high rocks, we've got the spring high rocks, we've got the winter gathering. That's basically the same thing, right?
Correct. And they're building it around community. So their events are like they took what Nike did really good in the marathon space, which is have a concert, make it really social and fun, yada yada. But then also package a product behind it where it's like you have to go to High Rocks gym, train for 3 or 6 months, and then once you do this one, you want to improve your time, or you want to go for the longer one, or you want to move up in division. Like they give you goalposts to keep chasing after, which CrossFit never had. It was just like show up, work out, sweat, have a little bit of pain during the workout. You have a community, like that's all good, but they miss the connectivity. Like in the old days, we had regional competition. We still have competitions and stuff, but it's a little bit more ambiguous. Like you don't know when they're coming, you don't know what they're going to do. It's kind of like martial arts. Like there's another regional competition, we'll just go do it. But they built a structure around it. And humans, again, if we want to talk about human behaviors, we want to work towards a goal and achieve that. Martial arts has belts, but they don't like the competitive end of it. It's like, what? Maybe I'll enter this one. I don't know who else is going to enter. I'm competing against people who are better than me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, well, that's going to lead me into now. You said something about going the extra mile, which is it is interesting because that's what I see with what you're doing with push press. It isn't like, right, okay, yeah, here's my product, boom, that's it, like one-time payment, never see you again. You seem to have this follow-up situation going where it's like once you're in, like it seems to me from the outside looking in that you're passionate about building a relationship, and it goes back, which is going to like lead us up to like quite nicely tie this all together, where you talked about value. Because I've always said before, if you chase your passion, you never have to chase your pension, right? Because it's that whole thing where it's like, yeah, I do this because I make money at it. And I say this about my drywall business. I would do it for free because I love it. Why? Because I just like creating stuff. And again, you hit on it earlier, I'm obsessive and compulsive. You can't pay me to do a job incorrectly because I can't live with myself knowing that I have my name to that, right? So with the push press, if you can explain to me what makes it different from everything else out there that is got maybe, because there's nothing out there that's exactly the same. You'll know that, right? But what has it got that no one else has got?
I think this is going to sound ridiculous, but I think most businesses out there are, again, we'll go back to inputs and outputs. And this goes for gyms, this goes for airlines, this goes for everything. But whenever you have a company that is formed around the idea of making money, kind of to your point, there's always cracks that start to form and problems that start to surface, because if your goal is to make money, that becomes what everyone pushes for. But if your goal is to create raving, fanatical, happy clients that are finding success, you end up making money, but you create a business that can actually sustain and has a culture around it. And I think where most companies go wrong, many of our competitors included, is this: they end up creating a governance structure or an investor structure or a leadership structure where it's about extraction, not delivery.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing we have going for us, which to me sounds stupid because that's why every business should be formed. And,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, no, it's so funny because as you were saying this, what was going through my head was, in my research about you, your personal story, which you don't have to go into unless you want to, but I really liked how you turned your life around, totally 180, and then believed in yourself that much for 9 years. You kept going and going and going until you started to get to a position where you were looking for external investment. And then if you don't mind, like some of the figures that I've seen that you've done are they're mind blowing. right? So can you explain? I'm sort of answering the question by saying this. So how many pitfalls and how many failures did you have before you actually realized that you had to be on the right track?
We have pitfalls and failures every day. It's just like training. Like I was talking to you before this podcast, you got a Kimura put on you today, or, like we get, as black belts or white belts, we get tapped daily. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. Failure is part of the process. And, we watched the Max Holloway fight last night. And one thing I like about Max is like, he doesn't go down. And to me, that's business. If you don't ever go down, you can't lose. And if you can't lose, you will win eventually. And that's why I think building around your passion and being so obsessed about your customer is so important, because every time you get knocked down, when you're on the ground thinking if I should get back up or not, if you're worried about your customer failing because of your lack of presence in the industry, it's much easier to get back up.
Yeah.
And so again, I think a lot of business is really hard when you think about it in the abstract of like, no map, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm getting punched all the day long, this sucks. But when you really put it into certain contexts of like, as long as I don't die, I will eventually win. Because you learn enough stuff every time you get up. Like this is an analogy I gave to people when I started black belt. I'm like, or jiu-jitsu. I'm like, jiu-jitsu is just like business. Every day I go in, I just try and live 1 second longer in the round. I know I'm going to lose. Like losing is a foregone conclusion, but can I last a minute 10? Can I last 2:30? Eventually I'm going to get through a whole round. And then I'm going to be like, can I escape? Because all I do is frame and play defense and shrimp and do, like that's all I'm doing. The minute I get into any type of positional power, I don't know what to do, right? Just like business. Like you're going to be like, oh, well, that thing actually worked, but I don't even know what to do right now. Like I got 10 leads coming in and I don't even know what happened. I don't know how I got here, and I don't even know what to do with them, but I got here, right? Jiu-jitsu and business is exactly the same. So if you don't die, if you don't just stop coming into the gym, eventually you will be a black belt. It doesn't matter if it takes you 20 years or 3.5 like Moneyberg. Eventually it'll happen, right?
Yeah. Well, Moneyberg's I think Moneyberg's like the advent of social media for a lot of people, because they're like,
I had to bring it up. It's very topical right now.
Well, yeah, Jake Shields, like you got to remember, like, so Jake Shields is a Holocaust denier, right? So immediately you have to go, he might be a little bit off, right? But he gives a really, really rich guy a black belt in 3.5 years. And everyone said he's devalued the belt. And I'm like, well, you can say it. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is, how much did it cost in money for him to get it versus how much did I have to pay in sweat, arthritis, and blood to get it? Because when you get on the map, we'll see we'll see who the black belt is. And the footage of him doesn't look great either. It's mad, because I only say, I use this line all the time, Dan, you're going to love this. It's one of my favorites when it comes to jiu-jitsu. You do not get good at jiu-jitsu ever. You run out of ways of being shit at jiu-jitsu. So literally you get to the point where it's like 1,001 times now I've been hammered here. Maybe I should try 1,002 times, try something else. So that's that. It was mad that you mentioned Max Holloway, because I don't know if you know this. Do you know how he actually learned his striking initially? You don't know? Well, this is crazy. I'll send you the link after the show, right? Max Holloway famously admitted to Joe Rogan he didn't have a coach when he started off. He was just this, like, I don't mind me asking, how old are you, Dan?
50.
Right, so I'm 56, right? So we're from that generation. You remember what would happen if a kung fu guy fought a karate guy? What if he was a weightlifter? What if he was really angry? And then you've got a whole generation of guys coming through saying, no, it's just mixed martial arts now. Because for them, it's normal, right? For us, I still look at Royce Gracie as a relative newcomer to this game. You know what I mean? But he learned to strike playing the UFC game on the PlayStation. Honestly, I swear to God. And like, it's so interesting, because as you were speaking and talking about, working out success versus failure, and then where the input is coming from now. Yeah, because you'll be one of those guys, same age as me. How many books did you read, like Unleash the Giant Within by Tony Robbins? But where you got the 7 Secrets of Success and the 7 Habits of Exceptional People, and it's like it's always mad 'cause it's like they get up early, they're quite driven, they eat a clean diet. You're like, that's all stuff you should be doing anyway. But yeah, what I want to just finish up on now is, and I don't really want to put you on the spot here, but if you had to sell push press, so imagine we're at San Diego, Comic Con's on, next door, there's a big martial arts show going on. It's one of the biggest in the world. Some guy comes up to you and you have like a 2-minute pitch to explain what push press is to somebody who's a gym owner. What would you do?
I think the biggest, and I give this coaching advice to all gym owners I talk to. I wouldn't sell, I would coach. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if push press is a good solution for your gym, but I need to know more about your gym to tell you that. Do you do check-ins? Do you have class-based memberships? Do your coaches need help on the floor? Do you have enough leads? Do you know what your sales funnel efficiency is? Do you have a process to make sure every member is connected to and feels part of the community? Where do you feel like your churn drop-off is? Do you know what your churn numbers are? Where is your retention numbers peaking and valleying? If you can answer these questions for me, I can tell you if we can help you or you're not, because, depending on how you run your business, maybe one of our competitors is a better choice. Maybe you can keep using pen and paper. I doubt that's the answer, but maybe. There's a lot, and I think that's the most important thing to selling is a lot of people think sales is a push, and I believe it's a pull. Like, I'm working with you to help you find the best solution for your business, and that might not be push press. And I'm okay with that. Right? And so I think if you want to know the pitch, my pitch, which backs up that statement, is like, I'm here for your success, and that doesn't matter if it's push press or not. I give a shit about your business so much that I will tell you to go to a competitor if that's a better choice for you.
Well, the mad thing is, right? Yeah, I think it's a good way for us to wrap up like the formal part of the conversation. But if you don't mind me saying, your future is going to be okay and bright in jiu-jitsu with an attitude like that, because you have to give way more than you take, right? My good friend Braulio Estima, who's a legend in this game, used to always say that, he said, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is the worst mistress you will ever have. He said, because it bangs you a lot more than you get to, what, because it's a nightmare. It's like, I'd really like to catch up with you at a later date over this to get your thoughts on this. But in fact, no, screw it. I'm just going to ask you now, as a man of your age getting into it, and this is going to be the only martial arty bit that I'm going to ask you, right? Is as a man of your age getting into it, which from speaking to you, I can tell you don't have, as I've used for a long time, the fact that I was Irish Catholic and a middle child and had quite a masochistic tendency to me, that's what kept me in jiu-jitsu. Well, got me in there first because, I was really good at martial arts. You won't believe this, Dan. Striking wise, I was very, very good. And then the first time I ever went to jiu-jitsu, I was on the receiving end of a knee and belly this morning from a dear friend of mine. And as I said to him, I got into my car and I literally cried because I was like, I cannot live in a world where another human can do that. If I live in a world where another human can do that, I'm the one doing it to them. I can't have this anymore. And he turned up today and helped me teach my class this morning, right? But why do you think there is this attraction right now? And we can I don't really like doing this whole thing, but why do you think the world wants to do jiu-jitsu? I don't want to do that. Dan, why is it a man of your age who is mentally balanced, who has been through enough trials and tribulations in your life to know that, guess what? It's going to take a little bit more than a triangle choke to break your spirit, Dan, I'm afraid to say, right? So why is it that you will go to it now and seek out this adversity? Because there isn't anything lacking in your life that you need it, I would have guessed. So why is it that you do it? And that's the big question.
Me personally, I'm a believer, and again, if this goes back to business so cleanly, but I'm a big believer of the fact that adversity is what creates character, and character is required to be a stand-up human being for your family, for your community. Like you've got to have the experience to do it. And I mean, man, if you showed me somebody who won every match, every trial that they faced, I will actually probably show you a weak human being because they don't know what it's like to get back up. So there's something about building the humility and the experience. And I'll be completely honest, like I've done CrossFit for 15 years. I'm now running a successful business. Like I'm losing I haven't been a newcomer to something in a long time. So to me, the, I guess, drug of it was being somewhere in a foreign environment that I knew nobody. I knew nothing about the technique. I didn't know shit for shit about anything happening there. And then I was the nail, you know? And I think that's good for everybody. The hard part is connecting the dot from that to somebody like us who's willing to be the nail to grow themselves to the rest of society who needs to be the nail in a safer, gentler, more respectable way that just doesn't leave them wondering what is happening. When do I not have to be the nail? You know,
Do you
like
know what?
I'm
Yeah.
very okay being the nail, but I'll be honest. Like if somebody said like, this is why you're the nail, the goal is not to be the nail. These are the things we're going to do every day to make you less and less being the nail. Like if someone gave me a little bit of framework up front, it would have been easier. And part of that's on me because I didn't go to the fundamentals class. I dove right into the
No.
all levels class. That's my own fault. But those are some of the things like we can start to bring to the world that gets more of the people on the fringes in slowly and slowly.
Well, it's so funny you said that because I'm believe it or not, I checked on your Instagram and I think it's one of our only mutual. Well, no, we've got three mutual friends. And one of them is the strongest guy in the world on Instagram. We both follow him, and then the other one is Tammy Wilson from MKG Martial Arts in Seattle. So I don't know if you know her, right? But our tagline, because my school is MKG Coventry, so Minnesota Kali Group, but it's easier just to bang it down to three initials. And then when people want to know what it is, it's just MKG Martial Arts. Don't have to do any of the weird stuff. But our tagline is this, Dan. We make better, more functional human beings for a better, more functional world, right?
Yeah.
And then people say, well, so tell me about the martial arts bit. And it's like, if I walk around, I can walk softly now that I've got a big stick. I don't want to go all Teddy Roosevelt, but it's that the fact that I'm able to choke out 99.9% of the population means I'm prepared to put up with 100% of the population's shit and not have to go off the handle every time. Mate, it's been wonderful speaking to you. A couple of things I'd give you, like literally just as an older guy who's been in jiu-jitsu longer. First of all, when you mentioned about the nail, you have to remember, right? To become the hammer, you're going to have to collect quite a few nails. So by the time there's about 10,000 nailings that you've had, you are now going to be the hammer. That's just how it works, I'm afraid to say. And you learn, it was so interesting what you said, where, you said about, you show me a guy who's won everything, right? Randy Couture came out with a great line after his first loss. And he was like, so where do you go from here now? And he turned around to Joe Rogan and he said, do you actually think that this one loss defines who I am as a man? This defines the rest of my life. He goes, I go back into the gym tomorrow and I fix the problems that we found, which was unreal. And then the last piece of advice I'm going to give you, Dan, is we're going to check in with you again in 6 months, and you will be, first of all, you can be the Kimura delivery system too. I'm letting you have that. That's yours. I'll still have to stay one for a little bit longer. And the other one is get half guard in your game as quick as possible. I'm telling you now, my half guard lockdown, I'll send you a couple of clips later. As I always say, half guard, I've stole all this from Eddie Bravo, by the way. So my and Gordo. So my half guard lockdown is this. Dan, we're going to die eventually, right? Half guard, entering half guard is going into, an old age people's home. So you go in there of your own accord, you fanny around a little bit. Every now and again, you cause a few problems, but you still get to stay you and alive for a little bit longer than you should do. That will be every time you pull half guard now and you use lockdown, you'll have all these young guys going crazy. And the one thing that they don't have that you have is patience. So they do all this going crazy, and you look at the clock and go, I've got 30 seconds. I can kill. I truly believe this. I could kill Islam Makhachev with 30 seconds on the clock to go. I haven't got 31. I've got 30. And half guard will infuriate him that much that he won't think about anything else apart from he'll try and kill me and I'll get out the door. That's a bold claim, by the way.
Well, I think do send me those videos, because I find myself under full mount all the time, and I've now learned how to get to half guard from there. So that's the next evolution maybe in my game. Half
guard lockdown is going to change everything, and you will be the most annoying man in the gym, because they're like,
white belt goal is to be the most annoying.
Oh yeah. It's like how much it takes just to choke this, and then what you'll get is like, and this will be that we'll sign off on this one. What's going to happen is I'm spoiler alert. I'm gonna tell you right now. You're going to suck. Then you're going to become a blue belt. And then the first time you roll as a blue belt, you go, how did I get so bad? And then all the upper belts will turn around and go, we were going easy on you because we knew you were going to quit. And then don't quit at blue belt. Yeah. And this is where we will part on this. Higa Machado said to me in 2008 that he was like, when I die, I want my pallbearers to be my first 6 blue belts. And me being like quite a sentimental character, an emotional character, I'm thinking, oh, this is great. You know, the first 6 guys, he got to that first milestone. And I went, really? Oh, that's amazing. Why? And he went, just so they can let me down one last time. And it was like, oh, no. But it's the truth. It's like blue belt, once you get to purple belt, you're in. You can't, you won't allow yourself to quit. But like right now, you are on the best belt ever, Dan. Because guess what? You're supposed to not be any good. So that's the thing. Yeah. Like, oh, Dan's no good. Oh, you see this guy? Yeah, this guy's a business like pioneer. And you go, right, yeah, he's no good at jiu-jitsu. And you go, yeah, but you're not supposed to be any good at jiu-jitsu. That's the whole point, Dan. But I wish you well on your journey and with your business. And would you like to just give a shout out? So where people can look you up, so LinkedIn, everything else like that, all your socials and website.
Oh, yeah. On LinkedIn, I'm at Danielson, kind of like the Karate Kid guy, Danielsan.
I already checked that out. That's why I wanted you to do that. As soon as I checked that, I was like, what a great one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can find me at pushpress.com/Dan. Got a bunch of information there, some of the past stuff I've written. I kind of consider myself a business philosopher. So I'll write a lot and talk about my thoughts a lot.
Well, do you know what? In my research for you, it was good. Yeah, the whole, from start to finish, everything that you've done so far is amazing. And you might have guessed, I'm quite evangelical about training and what it can do and change people's lives. Such an exciting era you're coming into now, because it's going to be, your skill level will go like that, and your physicality goes like that, and then you have to deal with that. It's like truly, like if you want to know how Marcus Aurelius actually felt, yeah, especially when he knew he was coming to the end of it, right? Or Hemingway, as I always say, I used to think I was the guy on the boat. Now I realize I'm the fish tied to the side of the boat in The Old Man in the Sea. That's who I am. But it's like jiu-jitsu will give you this, and it's like it's going to be really interesting to see where you take this, because I'll tell you right now, within 10 years, Dan, you should have a BJJ school. I really mean that. That's the goal. That's the goal you should be looking at, because the philosophy's already there. Now you just got to do the annoying bit of learning the jiu-jitsu. Yeah, everything else you've already got. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I wish you all the best for the future, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.